Greetings, friends and fellow passionate high achievers. Today's podcast is going to be old school. I am in my car, and if you're listening to this, I am actually doing it on video because YouTube is something that I have recently started posting more of my podcast to, mostly the interview podcasts, but today I did not have an interview podcast ready. I have multiple scheduled coming up, and the podcast that I was working on for today, which is actually an episode that I'm doing with my son, we didn't quite get finished in time. So I'm going old school, sitting in the car outside of one of my son's activities. This is the way that I did the first 90 or so before I really dove into the interview episodes, if you haven't been following for that long. But all of my OGs, well, the people that have been listening for a while will remember that this is the way it used to be. But anyways, so I am just going to share with you guys today just some of the things that are on my mind, because there's been a lot going on in the background. If you're watching this on YouTube, then you've seen that there's been more activity on our YouTube channel. So we've been working on bringing in new subscribers, sharing more ideas, any feedback on what's interesting, what you want more of is always super welcome. You can reach out at Stephanie@momentumlearning.info. I'd love to hear from you. But there is a lot going on and a lot of really exciting things coming in the future. And in the end, what I'm thinking about personally is just my identity. That was sort of my title that was gifted to me by the amazing Scott Shepherd, but as the Queen of Order and Chaos, because I absolutely love organization and productivity. I love sorting things and organizing. I was the kid in the grocery store that was, tidying up the candy aisle while we were waiting to check out. And at the same time, I get bored really fast if things stay ordered too long. So the whiplash that I have experienced in my life over the years is filling up my plate with way too many things to do, and then experiencing the chaos that often used to lead to burnout. I feel like over the last year, really 2023 was a major turning point for me in terms of creating a sustainable rhythm. So taking all of the integration practices that I've started sharing on the YouTube channel, but taking all those integration practices and really turning them into something that was momentum gaining. So something that could keep my energy up rather than have this frantic excitement that then would roll into a period of complete burnout, and then I would just be useless for several days or maybe a week or maybe even a month. I've had some long periods where I just got nothing done but the basics of the day-to-day, and I've really been able to sustain this high performance, high achiever, what some might call hustle, but the practices are very anti-hustle, because it's all about the balance and the integration and making sure that all of the pieces are taken care of. So that's where the order and chaos comes in. I like quiet days and I like crazy busy days. Like today, I'm doing this podcast from my car because I'm not stopping. I had an appointment this morning that went right into 2 different calls, and then one a Toastmasters call, one a cohort call with the Scott Shepherd group, and then went sledding with my son because it's all about integration. So there's got to be that family time. And now we're off to an activity with him, and then it's going to be time for Valentine's Day dinner. And then by the time I get home, the day is done. That's it. There's no more time or energy left. So some days are complete chaos like today. Other days are home and resting days, especially Sunday. And then there are days that are just focus days, that it's about getting the deep work done, which is some of what I wanted to share with you today. Because my partner, Ken, and I, my partner in Momentum Learning Systems, we have been writing a book. So if you're a follower of the podcast or the YouTube channel, you may have seen the life spiral and the 3-circle model that we've taught in various other forms before, depending on where you follow us. So that we are turning into a book. It's going to be like a smaller kind of guidebook, an introductory book to that whole idea. And that's going to lead into something that we're really excited about, which is a physical monthly newsletter that's going to take the perspectives of the 3 circles and then give you practices and applications and ways that you can stay connected to the perspective, but also have processes for how to apply it, because that's what it's all about. So the perspective is 50% of it. You need to have that higher level, the 50,000 square foot view of your life and your work and your values, so that at your core what's important. But those perspectives then have to be matched with practices that get you through the day-to-day. Because it's great to say like, oh, I want to have, one of the circles is vitality. So that's your health and your energy. Then how all of that rolls in together to help you, live your best life. And that's a really great and helpful idea of vitality. But then the actual practice of deciding to eat carrots rather than carrot cake is a whole lot harder. So that's where the 5 practices, which you've also heard us talk about before, the move, think, connect, fuel, empower. You can find a 5 practices episode on the podcast channel, and also on the YouTube channel. You can find the clips as well as the full episode of Ken and I sharing the 5 practices. But those come in to balance the perspective, because they're 2 wings of the same bird. If you're all practice, that's where you end up in that hustle space where it's just all go and trying to maintain elaborate systems of tracking your goals and your daily habits and your planner, and you just end up in a place where you can't ever shut your brain off. But then if you live too much in the perspective side of things, then you're floating somewhere around in the clouds and you never actually touch down to earth and get anything done. And I have known both types of people. I am definitely much more on the practice side. So I'm, in terms of the partnership that Ken and I have, I am the feet on the ground integrator that gets things done. So I am fascinated by the practices, and I have to really work at maintaining the perspective. And then Ken is kind of on the flip side, where he does really, really good in the perspective place. There's a lot of thinking and conceptualness to, the vision that he brings to his life and his work. But then the practice part of it can be a little bit more of a challenge. And, we all have different strengths. So for him, move practices and fuel practices come relatively easily, but then really getting concrete about the work and how to share it out to the world, that's where, if you have too much vision and not enough integration, then, the balloon just floats off into outer space. Our mentor always talked about how I was the string on the balloon. So Ken really brings the magic to what we do. I wouldn't really be able to do much of anything without the perspective piece of it. But then the balancing thing that I bring is that practice and integration and the 20-mile march, which is part of our executive helm that we teach to companies and the way that we run our business. And that comes from a Jim Collins reference. that I think I've mentioned on other podcasts before. So I won't go into it today. But yeah, so perspective and practice together is what helps us live that integrated life. And some days things go really well and all of the pieces of integration click together and you get all the things done that you wanted to get done. And other days you're sitting in your car doing a podcast because it needs to get done. And sometimes done is better than perfect. So here I am. And this is the ideas that I had to share with you guys today, is just that idea of perspective and process. And then I also wanted to give you a little bit of a heads up and a taste of things to come with the book that will be releasing, I believe, in the next 2 months. It's really going to depend. We are like buttoning up the first draft. So it's going to be, now it's going to need to go to some readers, and then I'm going to need to get it into Adobe InDesign and get it all spruced up and get the diagrams in there of the 3 circles. And then from there, it'll be, the publishing company and how much we can get it out. But I'm really excited because we're basically going to be giving the book away for free. You just pay, the printing and the shipping and handling costs of it. But I'm excited for the opportunity for us to continue sharing this legacy, because the 3-circle model comes from our teacher, our mentor, John Fritz, who, if you're a listener of this podcast, you've heard that name multiple times before. But he was an incredibly special human being that I still try to find the words to describe, because he really had a unique way of viewing the world. And his 3 circles, combined with the math that kind of builds into this whole life spiral concept, those 3 circles are the foundation that we have since grown and developed, which is exactly what he wanted. So we get to continue his legacy so where I'm the string on Ken's balloon, Ken and I together were the string on John's balloon. And that was a really awesome privilege to get to know him, especially the amount of time that we got to spend with him in the last 2 years of his life were very special. There was a lot of perspective and practice that he taught us over the years, and that's part of what we want to continue to share through the book that's going to come after it, the Navigator's Guidebook, little teaser. That's the next layer to the journey. And then the physical monthly newsletter that will get shipped to you every single month. And it will include, a community where you can connect with other people that are spiraling up their life. But it's all thanks to John and the wisdom tradition that he tapped us into, because a lot of what we're sharing is supported by modern science, but comes from ancient wisdom and practices. Just through the martial arts, we were connected into a lot of Eastern philosophies, Taoism, some Buddhist philosophies, and a variety of other things through the Shaolin art, and where the study of that and the practice of the Shaolin art led for the people that we got to learn from. And I don't claim to be any kind of expert on any of those things, but we were gifted something that has let us be happy even through, and we talk about this in the book, our experience with Quester's Way, which was the family education, empowerment, and entertainment center that we opened and ran for 4 years. Is a 16,000 square foot facility. It was a massive undertaking. We opened a restaurant, having never honestly even worked in a restaurant. Don't do that. Such a bad idea. The restaurant industry is brutal, and it is very interesting, the people that it attracts. You'll get to read about it in the book. But that experience was simultaneously the absolute best 4 years of my life and the absolute worst 4 years of my life simultaneously. And I know that Ken would say exactly the same thing. And the reason that we could handle the lows, which, you'll get to read about it in the book. There are so many things that went right and so many things that went wrong, and our ability to maintain perspective through all of it and keep it going, make it amazing while it was also struggling. All of that came from the practices that we'd learned from John Fritz and from the martial arts. So that's what we're really interested in sharing. And we're really excited to get to do it in this new way, because we love building brick and mortar businesses, and post-pandemic, not brick and mortar business time. We still have our martial arts school. That's doing well. But in terms of opening another Questers Way, which is still the dream, that's a $3 million investment that we don't have at this particular point in time. And bringing in an investor means giving up control. So we have some goals that we want to achieve before we really dive into that brick and mortar space again. And also, this model works best in a mall, and malls are really struggling right now. Real estate is kind of on this absolute roller coaster. So we're gonna focus on being able to basically be delivered to your doorstep once a month and help you live your best life, do your best work, and be your best self through these perspectives and practices. So that is where I will leave you for today. Thank you all for being supportive, for being here, whether you're on YouTube or you're listening on the podcast. You are wonderful, and I appreciate you. And of course, as always, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, keep being you.